Hello and welcome to Around the Lens, episode 102. I'm your host, David J. Murphy. As was mentioned previously, we're recording on this December 4th, 2017. Welcome to Around the Lens, episode 102. Oh, somebody's got the YouTube show open up in another window.
Oh, shit.
We're recording on this December.
Welcome. Not me.
2017. Around the Lens, episode 102. Oh,
not me.
YouTube show open up in another window.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
wait, hold on. Oh, it is me. There you go. It was in my other browser. Sorry.
No worries. No worries. All right, let's take it from the top. Hello and welcome to Around the Lens, episode 102. I'm your host, David J. Murphy, as was mentioned previously. We are doing this show every week, always talk about visual journalism, as you know from the intro. We're recording this live, December 4th, 2017. Our guest tonight, who I'm going to introduce in just a second. Before I do that, I want to let everybody know that I'm doing this show with my co-host, Zach Roberts. Zach, how are you doing, buddy?
Hello. I'm alive.
How was the last
2017?
How was the last 2 weeks for you? Did you have a good holiday?
Nice. I just got back from Dublin for a TV show set visit. I'm contractually obligated to not say anything about it. And then I'm about to head off
more.
It was for Into the Badlands, which I highly recommend. That's about all I can say.
Okay.
But then now I'm off to Alabama. Weirdly enough, for another TV show junket, not for the election, unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not quite sure.
All right. Well, I went down to Texas, spent a week with the wife's fam, and bought way too much stuff over Black Friday. But you know, it is what it is. I can't resist a good deal. And I just recently came back from Las Vegas. I was over there for the International Council of Air Shows, learning all about what it takes to run and operate an air show. So that was fun and exciting, having a little bit of fun gambling and watching shows in Las Vegas. So not bad at all. All right, well, our guest tonight is another podcaster by the name of Mr. Joe Giordano. Joe, can you please tell us about yourself?
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate it. So I'm my byline is JM, and I'm a Baltimore-based, DC, Baltimore photojournalist. I just left the Baltimore City paper, which was devoured by a corporate entity and changed into Weekend. So kind of sucks. I was a photo editor for there. I string for The Guardian. I do a lot of international stuff. The Observer. I'm also with Sopa Images. It is a wire service out of Hong Kong. Just had my first gig with them, which was a police officer's funeral here in Baltimore. And I specialize in like the 3 H's: homelessness, heroin, and homicide. So it's fun, you know.
There you go.
And I walk.
You ever get all three on the same day?
Well, it's Baltimore, so you really never know.
So it's probably most of the time all three at the same time, I would guess.
Yep. Yeah, and I covered the Baltimore uprising. I have a kind of a small fun announcement. You heard it here first. So the outfit that I wore during the uprising, the cops kind of jumped on me. There's a video of it everywhere. So the museum is acquiring the outfit that I wore for the Freddie Gray, the uprising, my combat jacket, and my backwards Oreo hat, which was ubiquitous in my Nikon camera. So
wow.
I just signed the paperwork today, so that's going down to DC on Friday.
That's cool.
That's amazing. Are they going to have it like on a model of you, like?
Well, it would have to be a big model.
Yeah.
Plus,
You're gonna get your own wax sculpture at
No, I mean they're acquiring it for the permanent collection, but they're thinking about putting in a show about civil rights in journalism.
Wow.
About
Zach, there's a calling.
The video. What's that? Sorry.
I was saying that there's a calling for Zach right there.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
I'm in a documentary coming up by MSNBC about it. So
really?
Civil rights and photography
about the uprising?
Journalism. Yeah.
About
about civil rights and journalism in general. So
okay. Oh, cool.
Just cut out.
You still there?
We lost Zach's video signal.
I know that's a great freeze frame, though.
That is a great freeze frame.
I'm just currently taking a photo.
Perfect. So wow, that's awesome. So they're going to take your stuff and they're taking your camera as well. Are they going to give you a new camera?
No, I've got. I mean, it's a D7000. It was kind of on the fritz anyway because it was like dropped and smacked around and yeah. So they're getting that in my press pass, and I have a curfew letter that I carried around from the police. So I mean, it was pretty much on lockdown. I'm sure you guys remember it, but
yeah,
it's really weird because this is a side story. My wife and I went to an auction at a house that was of a journalist who had passed away, and like I got his press card and stuff, and I was like, I don't want this to happen to me. I want something to happen to my stuff. So this came along, and I was like, take it. At least it's I take it, please.
Yeah.
I don't want people rooting through my house and I'm gone. You know, look at this jacket, things like that. So.
I'll take this D7000. It's on the fritz, but
yeah, but you could probably fix it and sell it for $3.
Okay. So during the Freddie Gray protest, so you were actually involved in an altercation. From what I saw online, it looks like pretty much the police beat you up. You want to talk about that? What happened there? How that turned out?
Yeah, I mean, they rushed this line, and it was actually, it wasn't a case of getting out of the way because a buddy of mine named Serkan, he's a Reuters photographer. They told him to step onto the curb, and he stepped onto the curb, and they still rushed him and grabbed his camera by the lens and arrested him.
Wow!
Even though he obeyed a lawful order. So both of us were kind of jumped on, and it was a very strange night because we were the only ones shooting at this particular. So just this recap. Sorry, this is a Saturday. This is that Saturday where everything at Camden Yards went down, right? So everybody was focused on the Camden Yard, the Baltimore Stadium, and my writer and I were like, "Hey, let's go up to the neighborhood where this whole thing started and see what's going on there." There must have been 70 cops. It was like an occupation of this neighborhood to like maybe 15, 20 residents. And the cops just rushed everybody, jumped on me, jumped on Serkan. They jumped on the guy. There's a photograph I think I sent. I kept shooting. They tried to take my camera, but I kept shooting. I have this photograph of this guy, Eric, who's being beaten by the cops. So I kept shooting. And they knocked my baseball hat off, which got all messed up. And I got up and I walked back over to the police line. And I'm like, "Excuse me, you guys knocked my hat off. Can I get it back?" I got like right in this cop's face. I don't know what I was doing, but I wanted my hat back. I just kept thinking of Indiana Jones. I wanted my hat back. Like, and Boehner, the guy who took the video, my writer was yelling. He's like, "Get back here!" I'm like, "No, it's principal. I want my hat back." God, and the cops were so surprised. They like reached behind him and gave me my hat. So this is my good luck charm, my Orioles hat.
So they were holding onto your hat? Like what? They just took your hat?
No. They reformed, right? And it was behind them on the street. I could see it. And I just went up and I was like, "I want my hat back." And I was an MP, so I knew a lot of defense. I knew a lot of defensive posture. So I had my arm up. This was all banged up in here, and my hat was on backwards. So when I went down, the bill hit this concrete and flipped up before my head did. I had to have a MRI done and all that stuff from work. But so the back of the hat is all scuffed up and all busted up, which I kept it.
So this was after you had been beaten up by the cops. You went to ask for your hat.
Yes, because it was just adrenaline.
Yeah,
it was just pure adrenaline. And then Boehner, Boehner, the writer, he got that video and he hit it on YouTube, and his phone went dead, so he didn't know if it got up or not.
Right.
And it did. And it just went everywhere. Like BBC called everybody. It just went everywhere. This video.
See,
yeah,
Zach,
that's okay. So that's rushing. Dak. Yeah, if you go back, that's right. Eric right there. I have a color version of that, which is really, really nice. And then the one before that is them. The last shot, no other way. That one. That's right before they hit me. And at the time, I was using prime lenses. That's my 35mm Nikkor lens. So that was right when they charged us.
So what was the fallout from that? I mean, what happened after that incident? Did you sue? Was there a settlement?
I mean,
what happened?
It's a good question. I didn't sue because I was a staff photographer at the city paper, and I figured, I work with these cops all the time in on a day-to-day basis as a photojournalist. And, I wasn't injured to the point where it's like, oh my God, medical bills. So I decided not to get a lawyer because I gambled. And I figured if I didn't get a lawyer, then I would have access to the cops. If I got a lawyer, I would never be able to work with the cops again. And it paid off. Now I have no problem with the police at all. And the next day, the commander, the chief of police called the newspaper. Publisher came to my office and said, "Hey, Batch is on the phone. You want to take this call?" And I said, "You can tell him to stick it up his ass. I'm not taking this apology." So that went public. Someone leaked that from my office, and it went public, and that was pretty funny. But I mean, I was an MP, and the irony is when I was in Korea, I was the one wearing the riot gear.
Right.
So I've been on both sides of this thing, and because like I said, I didn't have any serious head injuries or anything, mostly because my arm was up for the batons, and the combat jacket was kind of big, so it kind of buffered the hitting on the arms. So it was just all bruised. I had a couple cuts. It was all bruised, like really bad.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think I made the right choice because after that, after everything died down, like they answered my emails. I got press releases. Like it was cool.
They did everything for you.
So
how about physically? How are you?
So
how are you doing physically? Like from that, are you all healed up? Or were there any permanent damage? Or are you hearing damage?
No. I mean, there wasn't. It was just like 6 guys in batons. And again, I had, I'm a little cushioned. So, but I had the green. My dad's actually Vietnam jacket, his green Army jacket, and so that took a lot of the blows. So I had my arm up and shooting like this.
Yeah.
And like a hand came down and tried to grab my camera, and I got that whole series of Eric being beaten, and then it just stopped, and they just stopped, like they just ran away. It was really strange.
Did they stop because they realized you're a photojournalist, or because they?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, that since before really anybody else, like I got a call the first day that Freddie Gray was in the hospital, which was like April 19th. And I went down to City Hall, and there was only maybe 50 protesters. So I was there from like the very first day, right? So the cops knew who I was. Like, I mean, come on, they were class. They knew exactly who I was,
Right.
I had my press pass on, so it wasn't like, oh, this guy just showed up taking photographs with his phone, that kind of thing, But I got a hard head, man. So
they knew what they were doing, but they did anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very strange period and now, I mean, now with this, I don't know if you guys are following this police killing in Baltimore. If you want to, this is the beginning of a rabbit hole conspiracy. What you're seeing now is the rabbit like this much into the ground. It's getting deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
So it's a really strange case, man. But I don't have any problem when I go to crime scenes.
That's good.
So
a little positive out of it. It came out of it. And you're going to be featured in your clothes are going to be featured in the museum forever.
I mean, that's cool. Yeah.
What's that?
In the papers today, which is pretty chill. So
that's the closest thing that we.
How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Doing good. I was going to say that's the closest thing probably any of us will have to getting in the Smithsonian. So, well, anyways, let's talk about podcasting. So that's what we're here, and that's how I discovered you. You have a podcast called 10 Frames Per Second, right?
That's correct.
So, obviously I'm a podcaster. I do this show. Zach podcasts on the regular for his website, visu.news. And of course, you're a podcaster. So we all have a love and appreciation for the medium, which is podcasting. But why did you decide to start a podcast?
Well, our podcast.
And what's your podcast about? So describe your podcast and talk about why you decided to get into it.
So 10 Frames Per Second is a podcast for death metal furries. And it's fantastic. I really.
Now that is a niche. I thought my show was niche. That's super niche.
Yeah. It very well might be larger than photojournalists these days.
So our podcast is our tagline is a podcast with photojournalists about photojournalism for everybody. I've been a co-host on the mysteriously absent This Week in Photo with Frederick Van Johnson.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was a co-host a couple times on there, and
I hear he's coming back soon.
Yeah. What is the deal with that? Do you guys know?
I don't know everything. I know I know vaguely that, from obviously his last show, episode 500, it sounded like you need to take a break and reorganize. I don't know why it's been so long, but I do know it's supposed to be coming back.
That's cool. It was like radio. I mean, I was a host like 3 times on there, and they always stuck me with the snowflake guys. It was really weird. Not in the modern parlance, but the guys that shot micro snowflakes.
Oh yeah, that guy's cool.
It was always some Canadian dude, right? And
like the complete opposite in terms of size of photos.
Yeah, like Frederick, who's super cool, right? He was like, hey, what's up with you guys? And one guy, some guy, with some Australian accent, of course, lives in Japan, does workshops in Bali like his entire life. And I'm like, yeah, I just shot this homicide. And that's good. But anyway, so I was a host on there, and he made this remark that really stuck with me. He's like, Joe, you're the only working photojournalist I've had as a co-host. And then I started looking around, and I was like, there's tons of like gear podcasts, right? There's tons of I don't want to say like hobbyists, because that's kind of derogatory, but there's like enthusiasts, like photo enthusiasts,
right,
podcasts, but nothing really about like photojournalism, like from people that are in the field like right now. So I was like, you know what, we're gonna do this. And it took like 2 years, man, to get this thing going. But I finally, offhand, I had a friend of mine, this guy John, who's one of our producers. He runs a radio station at Loyola University here in Baltimore. And he's like, man, we'd love to host that. So my former intern is Audrey Gatewood. She's one of our producers. And my co-host, Elena Volkova, she's a professor at Stevenson University here in photojournalism. So we've got her big brain and my smart mouth make really good, pretty good. But we keep it pretty chill. We've had some really great guests on. I think like next year, knock on wood, I think it's really gonna blow up. So I had my mom on. My dad's been on. My neighbor.
Oh, great. Those must have been hard gets. I gotta tell you.
Huge gets.
But, you had on a few weeks ago. Now, was it who was the guy in the movie? Who were we talking about?
Eros Hoagland.
Hoagland, yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Eros. Yeah.
Yeah, Eros was a great guest for us. We had him very early on in our show.
That's cool. Yeah.
So glad to see him making the rounds.
Yeah.
And so your show is primarily an interview show, right?
Yeah, we don't do because they air it on the radio. So we got to keep the banter and stuff down to kind of a minimum, because John will just cut it out.
Right.
Like we try, he just cuts it out. But it's like, when we talk to Eros, okay, so the secret to getting photojournalists on your show, find their books. Like that's hit their egos. Like, hey man, that's your book. You want to come talk about your book? Yes, I'll talk about my book.
Yeah. Oh, I can promote my book. I could maybe sell a couple copies.
Like, yeah, exactly. No, he was a great interview. Like Zach, did you hear the interview with Eros?
Yeah, I think so.
By any chance?
It's been a while.
Yeah, because we talked about wedding photography, which was hilarious. Like, I think that's one of the funniest moments in our entire podcast. Is like, there's this like hard,
we were taking fire, but the wedding still had to go on. No.
What's that? Yeah, okay. So the reason I had him on is because I saw that interview with him on Witness, and he said like photojournalists are like ineffective. Like they don't change anything, and that really got me pissed, because, and I think it kind of came through. Because, if these guys that go to Syria, these white guys that go to Syria and do all this stuff, if they would stay in their own cities and focus on things like homelessness, I mean, with their talent, like that would get noticed. I mean, it happens in a city like Baltimore. It happens in D.C. Like, once a local publication publishes a series on like opioid or something, it gets stuff done. Like the mayor sees it. So I thought he was being kind of glib on the whole, like, and then he admitted it. He was a great guy. He's like, yeah, it's like, second thought, it probably was not the right thing to say. He's like, because there's no future in photojournalism. And I said, well, there's weddings. And he's like, oh, I know, I shoot weddings. And like there was this long silence. It's cut out. John cut it out. We were just like, I'm like, wait a minute, you shoot weddings? He's like, yeah. He's like, my friend here in California, I'm his second shooter for a buddy who runs a wedding business. And I'm like, is this when they want like bullet hole windows and the bride behind it or something? What does the Eros Hoagland wedding photo look like? You know, it was
it has to be in a war-torn country with dead bodies all strewn about.
A real destination wedding.
But we've also, I mean, we try to keep our guests very diverse. We've had quite a few female photojournalists on, people of color, Latino, African American. So, and that's also something I noticed missing from my photo podcast was like this one. This is a couple of white guys.
No.
Hey, so what do you think of that? The D850 boy. Woo, that 1.8. So
yeah, I mean, it's diversity is a struggle, I think, in any field, but more so obviously in photojournalism. Like for instance, we just had our 100th episode a few weeks ago, and I struggled to get people on the show, and I've females people on the show. I've been, minorities, Latinos, African American, all of them have been on the show, and I tried to get them back for the 100th episode. And then what did we end up with? We end up with 7 white guys.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's like, it's not out of, I had 3 women lined up for that episode, and they all had something come up. Right. So, it's tough. It's tough in this career field sometimes.
Well, that exactly right, Dave. Like that. I mean, we've had to postpone shows because the drawback is they're not enthusiasts, right? So they're not a dentist with a nice camera. They're like a working photojournalist. If they get a call, they got to go. And it's like, sorry about your dumb podcast. I got to go shoot something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, you mean that thing I don't get paid to do? Yeah, let me prioritize that over work.
I can't postpone my micro 4/3 snowflake photos. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see what you're doing out there. Obviously, when I entered the field, of course, I also did my research to kind of see what was out there. And yeah, I saw a decided lack of photojournalism, visual journalism, just broadcast journalism, all those different career fields lacking. And so like you, I wanted to kind of fill that niche. I used to actually do an interview show back in the day when I first started podcasting in 2009, where I'd have on different, not just photojournalists, but photographers and whatnot, primarily with the focus being photojournalism, because that's my background. But I grew tired of the interview format, and that's why I went more towards the roundtable show.
Right.
But glad to see, somebody obviously like yourself taking on that interview genre with the photojournalism aspect. Because like I see other, like you, I see all kinds of different shows out there, interview shows, or just people talking to the camera or talking to the microphone, talking about photography. Right. And it's mostly, again, like you got landscape shows, you've got general photography shows like the Candid Frame, that's a very popular interview show. But again, it focuses on every different aspect of photography, which, I think, the sort of more amateur, more general photographer might be interested in, but us as photojournalists, I think we want to hear about people from our career field. Yeah. Talking about the career field.
I mean, like Elena is a fantastic co-host. She really brings the intellectual side to it because she teaches at a college and like theory and things like that. So she, her questions are more the theoretical and things and it's great because our guests are really challenged. We've gotten a lot of compliments about our questions. Like we don't try not to waste anybody's time. It's like, remember that shot? You took the one dude with the thing? Oh, that was awesome. We don't do that, But the Chris Farley.
So how have you found the experience? Because you said you had experience podcasting, well, not podcasting, but appearing on other people's shows. And by the way, do you have headphones? Because I'm getting a little bit of reverb, I think, from
can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you by hearing myself on your end, I think.
Well, I have my buds, but you said you could only hear me in one ear when I had those in, right?
That was my end. See, this is the joy of doing live. I
can put the buds in if you want.
Yeah, because I'm hearing myself.
Yeah, sure, man. Hold on.
So while he does that, Zach, how is Visu.news going? How's your podcast going?
Our podcast is going fine. I believe. My co-host is taking over interview duties this week, I hope. he's able to get the interview because I literally have been home for 48 hours. So, and about to head out again. So
Yeah,
it's difficult. But
have you seen much success or traction in growth or whatnot, or is it still just trying to get the format settled in?
I mean, we're still trying to figure out the format a little bit and kind of evolving it as it goes along. I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't had more pickup because, like, we just had a relatively big journalist on that, former colleague Greg Palast on to to do a whole thing, and I thought we'd get a lot more pickup from that, and we got some, but not like a lot of subscribers and not as much traffic, even though he shared it quite a bit. So it's just one of those, like, I'm trying to figure it on, like, what is the length, what's the what's the format that's hopefully going to make this thing different, because there's 8,000 different political talk podcast out there, and especially when, again, one of the problems is that Visu News, which is a visual news web-based website, having the audio components is always kind of like trying to figure out, okay, so what is the point of this podcast on Visu News if it's not actually visually based news?
Are you guys on iTunes yet?
Yeah.
And what's it called?
It's picking up basically an old podcast I had about a year ago, but it's Insurgency USA podcast. Yeah, basically political news. We talk a lot about the resistance movement, whatever that means, but also activism and things like that.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I covered like the J20 stuff, so I'd be interested to check that out.
Yeah, you should listen to previous episode, which we've had Shay Horse, who's been on a couple times on this podcast, but he was one of the journalists that got arrested during J20, okay. And he did his first kind of big interview on the podcast where we went kind of minute by minute through what he went through, and it was quite rough. Say the least.
That was pretty wild being there for the big limo explosion. Things.
Yeah, I unfortunately missed that. Yeah. I was there, but I missed that. It was still, I think it was just smoking a little bit when I arrived there. So yeah, no.
So were you like around the corner, or were you like up the street?
I had credentials to the inaugural, so I was covering some of the inaugural actual like stuff around there, and my assignment was to talk to people who went there. So it wasn't actually covering the protests around it. It was covering that, and I was actually on the other side. If you remember trying to get from one side of the inaugural area to the other, the security was ridiculous. That's the only way to describe it, not in a difficult way, but as in a logic of any kind that how you actually put security together. But either way, I just missed that by a little bit.
I got a text from my editor while Trump was speaking. He's like, "Get up here now, like to the 14th and F or whatever that street was." So I had to go from where we were, like you said, all the way up to that way.
That's
up there. So
it was not a fun day.
So who do you shoot for?
So, we were talking.
Sorry. So who do you shoot for?
Go ahead.
I shoot for kind of everybody. I shoot for a wire service called NUR Photo.
Okay. NOOR? NOR?
NUR Photo. Yeah, no, not NOR. I wish. But also, I'd be doing a little bit better. But also just freelancing different news sites and stuff like that.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit about traction, of course, and gaining an audience, and wanted to just ask you, how have you, obviously, I know some shows can reveal their numbers, and you don't have to if you don't want to, but have you seen growth I see you're up to episode 20. Have you guys seen growth since you've been starting?
Yeah, well, we rented a Cessna and put our we dropped $20 bills over the city.
Oh, smart.
With our website on
there you go.
That's what we got to do with Around the Lens.
See, you got to invest a little, guys. Come on.
Yeah, you got to spend money to lose money.
It'd be silly me buying like $10 worth of Facebook ads. I should have just dropped the 20s out of the plane. Okay.
They don't work, by the way. All of our they don't. Yeah, all of I didn't see any uptick. We bought Facebook ads, but Yeah, so it's been word of mouth. It's been the guests sharing it on their private Twitter,
Right.
and their private Facebook, which is, and when you get someone like Andre Chung from the Washington Post like sharing it, it gets around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a really good discussion with him about race and photography, which was really good. But we're getting there. We can't seem to get it on, even though we put the metadata information for iTunes. We can't seem to get it into iTunes. I don't understand why.
Yeah, I was just looking at iTunes, trying to find and actually.
It's not on there. I don't know what we're doing wrong.
Let's talk after the show. I'll try and get you hooked up. Because
that'd be great. Thank you.
If you're not on iTunes, you kind of don't exist in the podcasting world.
Yeah. I know. And I keep saying, well, we're only at 20, so it's still pretty young. I mean, we're crawling. You guys are you're walking. So, but
we're running. We stumble a little bit.
Running, yeah.
Limping
we stumble hard because we're running. It's not a fast run. It's a jog. It's a light jog,
But we put all of our data in with on the like Blueberry and the WordPress stuff, and all of the iTunes metadata. So I don't with the keywords, you do SEO stuff, all that stuff. So I don't know what the deal is. They just don't like us.
We can definitely, that's a super simple process. I can help you out with that. We actually published a how-to guide. If you are, if you're listening to this and you're like, I want a podcast. I published a how-to guide where you can get started and going for absolutely no money. You don't have to subscribe to a special Podbean or Libsyn service. You can do it all for free and get your voice out there and be heard in the podcasting world. So that's on the AroundTheLens.com's website. We've seen moderate growth over the course of the 2 years we've been doing the show. It hasn't been extreme in any, and actually it's kind of dipped. It dipped a little bit last year over the course of 2017, but it's actually, we've seen some nice growth here in the last few months, steady upward growth. So hopefully that continues over the course of however long the show goes. But always glad to see that because, again, like we're doing this, none of us are getting paid to do podcasting.
We're not getting any money.
Right. We do this out of the joy of our hearts and our experiences and the opportunities to meet interesting people. Like I'm sure you've met many photojournalists that you probably never would have met, normally via your show, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's also, to be, frank, it's a good networking thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a platform. Like we did a 2-parter. We have what we call these medicinal episodes that are coming up. Like we interviewed Mickey Osterreich from NPPA, the lawyer.
Oh, good old Mickey. He's so fine.
Yeah. Well, but it was because he didn't think we could see him on the screen, and we could. He was just like, "Oh, these questions, oh, what the hell?" But it was all this copyright stuff. But we're gonna do one on tax season coming up. I call medicinal because, like, look, it's not fun, it's not sexy. You got to take it. Just take the medicine. Listen to this.
Yeah.
And we did our first live at a Studio One at the DC Photo Week opening party. I hooked up with the organizers, so we got a pass to get in there to interview Scott. The guy took the screaming Nazi photo.
Oh, we must have just missed each other, by the way, because I was there.
Were you there?
I won. I have the photo right next to him.
Okay.
Wall.
Oh yeah. Wow.
The other photo from Charlottesville. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, right on. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So we were there. We interviewed the guy from Magnum. We interviewed a couple. I'm sorry, Zach.
No. I was only there very briefly because I had to run back, run back home. So
yeah,
okay. Zach. We were. I know. We were looking for winners. And Svetlana was kind of like here, so I didn't get a chance to see you, but that posted very well, like live from the party. We put that up like within that week, so it was up during Photo Week.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great.
So that we had posted very well. More one-offs like that, So
that's great. We're actually going to be experimenting with some stuff with our show, trying to actually take it out and do it live in a public setting with people in person. So getting a whole round table of folks together and doing like a panel, but doing it as part of the Around the Lens, like an episode at universities or at events like Photo Week DC would have been an awesome opportunity because there's so much good talent there.
Yeah.
If we could have set up something in advance and set 4 or 5 photojournalists around a table and just talk about the field or various topics. That would have been a great, I think, live episode of the show. Because again, it's awesome to do the show like this, where we can talk, but we're all just, I'm in, Mississippi, Zach's in New York, you're in Baltimore. So, we look at each other on the view screens, but obviously, there's a separation there. And I think being able to, obviously do the interviews in person, as is much more dramatic and much more intense, I would say, experience.
I think you guys will like when you do your like the sound was, the interview was in the room where they were doing the projection, Zach, was where we had a little table set up. But you got to hear people walking around like a party atmosphere. It was really interesting. I think next year, like I talked to Kevin Delisle, him down there in Alabama. He's one of the organizers of the Atlanta photojournalism seminar.
Oh, okay.
So like that's the one I really want to do a panel at, I think, because a lot of the Washington Post guys go down there for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Al Drago and Jaden go down for that, and because I see, if you're ever in DC, Zach. By the way, I'm a member of the National Press Club. Come up for a happy hour or something if you're.
Cool. I'm down in DC all the time, so because I cover most of the protests and things that I do.
Hey,
so yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk. Don't hang up afterwards. I'll talk to you about the club because it's pretty good.
Cool.
We always stay after and do some post show discussion. So you're
okay. That's cool.
That. But I'm just curious. When you said you were doing research before and looking to see what was out there, by chance did you happen across our show, or where was that before we started our show that you were doing that research? Just curious.
Yeah, totally. You guys are at the top. No, because I think when I was doing it, I kept putting in photojournalism podcast. So you're not known as a photojournalism podcast because nothing really came up under that. I mean, you came up under photography podcast. I remember seeing Around the Lens and like Iberex's Candid Frame, right? Of course, This Week in Photo. Valerie Jardin's one, her street photography one, like that, but nothing under. So on the SEO stuff,
I got to work on my metadata then because I put that in the metadata.
Yeah, it didn't come up as to me when I was Googling last year. It didn't come up as photojournalism
there it is.
Podcast.
If you search photojournalism in iTunes, we do show up.
Okay, cool.
Behind like half a dozen other podcasts. Why are we behind the B&H Photo podcast? Darn it.
Those guys probably pay a lot of money.
I updated
I think they have some money to back that to get their.
They use the money that they don't pay their employees with to. Did I say that? Sorry.
I used to work.
Well, there goes your endorsement deal.
Yeah, well, we have a great day, man. Baltimore's got a Service Photo. Shout out to those guys. They're my local camera store. Hooked me up big time this year. So I'm not going to.
Well, maybe they'll sponsor the show. You never know.
Hey, you never know. I'll give you Burke's information. He probably like, I'll give you a rented lens. How about that? No, but it's a good place. Good.
So have you enjoyed the experience of having a show and doing the podcast and everything like that? Has that been an enjoyable experience for you?
Yeah, I think it's been great. It's been really challenging, and I'm a photo history nerd, so really getting to know these people and getting to ask, like, because I'm always the person that like yells at Meet the Press questions, right?
Yeah.
So like finally being able to talk to professional photojournalists and ask the questions that I would be yelling at my, if I was listening to you guys in the car, I'd be like, ask them this, oh man. So that's pretty cool, and again with Elena being on there, she really brings she really intelligent questions that I think make these photojournalists think about their work and their career and things like that. So I think it works out really well. I love it. I really dig it. And I mean, we're blessed because Loyola does all of our producing, and so we don't, we're not like you guys where it's like, fuck, this is, we've been blessed with a university behind us. So I show up, they give me my Evian, I get my nails.
Go to the green room.
And John tries to talk to me. I'm like, just don't talk about talent, please. You can talk to Audrey, my producer. Saw my rider. Okay, John. Anyway,
green M&Ms. Only green M&Ms.
Exactly.
So you record it on the school campus? Is that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we record in the radio station.
So you don't really have to do any post work. You just basically show up, record, and leave, and they take care of all the post work.
I mean, I eat the green M&Ms.
That's very important.
Yeah, no, I show up.
And I'd love for that. I would love to just be able to show up at a place and have 3 or 4 folks, 3 or 4 or 5, people.
Well, here's the thing.
Like, okay, here's what we're talking about today, and then leave and just not have to deal with any of the background work.
You could. I mean, like we approached. I mean, it's college radio, and I had no idea. Like a lot of these colleges are hungry for content.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, John loves it. It airs on the radio station. I think 10 o'clock in the morning on Sundays. So it's a great hour show, and it's and it also sweetens the pot with the guests because I use it. Well, it's we have a lot of student listeners, young people, and they're like, oh, I'll talk to young people. So we get a lot of like, how did you get started and things like that for students. I mean, dude, find a college, man.
Yeah,
I'm serious. I would never thought to do that.
No, yeah, I didn't. I mean, I'm thinking I'm engaging with colleges now, but only because I'm trying to do this ATL live show.
Right. Check out the radio
or
stations.
trying to get college professors on the show and students, but
colleges.
Actually have a college radio station host it and do all the hard work of all the background work. Well, it might not be a bad idea. I'll have to look into that.
Right. Yeah, and we like Loyola is a very photo friendly school. They have a photo book course, like making a photo book, publishing photo books. So they're very photo friendly, photojournalism friendly. We have quite a few good journalism schools here in Baltimore, which is pretty good. So especially in photojournalism.
Well, I'm gonna go contact my local community college.
See, I know you guys laugh. 1 year later, be like, "Hey, it's Dave. I just want to thank Joe. We're on the college down here in Atlanta's radio station."
You're like, hey, you know what? This could be the turning point.
Yeah. See, I think I'm just 45 minutes away or less than that from Syracuse University, but I used to be a student there, so and I've kind of not always talked pleasant about them, so I'm not quite sure if they want to give me radio waves, but.
Yeah, Zach, go down to Syracuse. Get on Syracuse. Syracuse actually has a podcast for photojournalists. I was just found out just by doing a quick. Oh yeah,
what is it?
It's called Photojournalism Student Work, and there's only 2 shows, 2 episodes from 2007. So I don't think we have to worry about them. They're not a big.
Yeah,
they do show up in the search results. So
that's a very vague name. What's that podcast about?
I don't know, but they got the SEO on lock. Let me tell you.
Yeah, well,
I'll call this podcast a visual journalist podcast because I don't want to isolate it to just photojournalism or just broadcast journalism or whatever.
I would say something weird as a person who's continually looking for work. I would find if you go to journalismjobs.com and search photojournalists, I would say 80% of the jobs listed under photojournalists are ENG camera operators, like that level, that type of visual journalism. And it drives me nuts because like it's impossible to find just still photojournalist workers.
Exactly. I was just gonna say this weird blending of video and photo now. Like I see there's a real. I'll invite you guys. There's a secret group on Facebook for photojournalism jobs. Serious. I'll send it. I'll invite you guys. But it's good. It's a good group, and I'm glad it's secret. Like they vet all of the job entries and stuff. But they all say photojournalist, but what they mean is a videographer. They don't mean a photojournalist, and that's really disturbing how that's starting to blend together.
Well, what I'm even surprised because I've seen that a lot, the kind of multimedia journalists or different things like that, or photo video. But what I'm surprised is like people hiring for like Sinclair Broadcasting and stuff like that, which obviously they don't have still photographers, is under photojournalists, and they're just looking for ENG copper. You have to have a CDL license. I mean, like it's not even just like how newspapers are hiring photographers to do video work, and it's always perplexing. But I know the group that you're talking. I'm pretty sure I know the group that you're talking about. And yeah, no, that's fantastic. It's a fantastic group. Yeah.
But you're right. They I mean, Sinclair is based here in Baltimore, so it's like living on Endor and being able to see the Death Star. But I was at a panel discussion with the head of Sinclair at the National Press Club, and I went off on the panel. It was for photojournalism ethics, right? And it was like okay, so it was like World Press Photo was there, right?
Yeah.
Sinclair Broadcasting was there, and they were like wagging their finger at me about how I shouldn't like doctor images and stuff like that. And I just got up and it was like Harper Valley PTA, you know. I was like, well, World Press Photo, you had a guy, you know, use a different setting and you gave him the freaking award. And you, Sinclair Broadcasting, butchered a protest to say, so kill a cop. So don't sit up here and tell, you know. But the head of Sinclair looks kind of like the Emperor. He wore a cloak. No,
I would not.
Well,
be
everybody download and everybody go to 10 frames per second, 10 FPS. What is that? 10fps.net. Or hopefully we'll get you on iTunes, so everybody can find your show. But let's move on to our next topic. You'll have a chance to plug that at the end as well, in addition to any sort of website you'd like us to go to. But let's talk a little about, we got the holidays. You know, we just had Thanksgiving and Black Friday. We got Christmas coming up. Obviously, there's been a lot of deals for goods and stuff like that out there. So what are we buying with all our vast sums of money we get from our jobs doing visual journalism? What are we buying for either for ourselves or for others? I'll start. I just obviously went a little bit crazy over the Black Friday holiday and bought a whole bunch of junk I really don't need, but some stuff I do need, actually. I lost a hard drive. This is a horror story, if you will. So just so you all know, to make sure to back up your stuff. But I had a hard drive that had every single photograph I'd ever taken from 1999 to 2015 on a hard drive. And I was planning to take it down with me to Texas because I was going to do some sorting. And I build these books with my old photos sometimes. But anyways, I put it in the box. You know, I put it in the carton it came in because I wanted to make sure it was as protected as possible. And so I left it, you know, out by the front door to make sure I grabbed it on my way out as we were leaving. Well, my son, who, by the way, just turned 3, so congratulations to him. He decides, curious as all get out, and he sees a box, and it didn't happen in front of me, thankfully, because I probably would have blown my mind, or probably would have lost my mind. But apparently, he grabbed the box with this hard drive with all my stuff on it. It fell out of the box, and the hard drive slammed into the linoleum floor, and it didn't work. So I lost this hard drive, and I sent it to a data recovery place. It would have cost $2,000 to recover. But thankfully, I am a digital pack rat. So I have all my old hard drives I ever had from my very first external hard drive, which is like probably 500 gigabytes, to now. And every time I upgrade hard drives, so I go from 4 to 5 to 8 terabytes, I'll buy a new hard drive, and then I'll throw all that stuff onto the new, bigger hard drive. So thankfully, I was able to reconstruct my entire archive from old hard drives. But that should be a warning to you all that if you do not have multiple places where you're backing up your stuff, you are playing a very tricky game right there. So I'm going to be making sure I have everything backed up onto Google Photos, Amazon Photos, and now I'm going to have multiple hard drives in multiple locations. So I'm actually going to leave hard drives with all my content in Houston and Florida. So when I go home for the holidays, so just putting that out there, warning message to you all. So I bought a bunch of hard drives. I actually bought this bad boy right here. Oh, this is a 20 terabyte hard drive from Western Digital. Excuse me. And I also bought a bunch of these little external 8 terabyte hard drives, which I'm going to actually take them out of their case, and I'm going to put them into a RAID array. So I'll have a 32 terabyte RAID array. So again,
I just got a G drive, 6 terabyte to back everything up.
There you go. Honestly, if it weren't for video, I could probably be okay with 8 terabyte hard drive, because honestly, all my content, even from everything I've ever done, just photo wise, is probably only about 4 terabytes worth of stuff. It's crazy when you think about it. It's just all this now. I'm shooting 4K video and stuff on my Panasonic GH5. And so it's causing me to just acquire so much more data so much more quickly. So that's one of the things I bought, and I bought a 4K TV finally. Oh, I bought this really great, you can't see it, but it's a Canon Pixma Pro 100 printer. I got this on a special deal. I'm actually published. Zach actually put together a little shopping list of Black Friday stuff about this printer. I got it. It's in my box right here. I still have to unpack it, but great deal. $200 rebate.
No one's going to donate to our Patreon account now after hearing that laundry list.
Well, I mean, it's still all stuff. All the Patreon money goes towards the show. Goes to paying Zach.
Don't listen to anything he just said. He is a man of
everything
independent wealth.
Everything I bought was on sale, or it was a necessity. Like this hard drive was a necessity, because again, I didn't want to be ever in a situation where I lose my entire archive. But what are you guys buying? What are you guys buying for the holiday season? Are you buying any stuff?
I saved up for my freelance. I got this 1 gig card. It's great. From Tertiary. So I'm really happy with my purchase.
1 gigabyte. That's amazing. I don't even know how they can fit all that thing onto this card.
No, I bought. I recently got a grant from Hopkins University to work on this series, and so I bought a new. I love a D750.
Yeah.
So I bought a service gave me their Black Friday deal a month in advance.
Nice.
So I got the 750. I got the Nikkor 22 to 300 lens, and the pack, the bottom. And so I mean, I've been spending. I got a new printer, got a new Epson printer, which is got that at Black Friday sale. It was like $160. Got it for like $40.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm a big. You can't really see it, but behind me in the is my photo book library. I collect monographs.
Nice.
So I always recommend people books, even on our podcast, which is 10 frames per second. Did I mention that?
.net.
They're like, but I always recommend getting books because I'm not a gear person because I can't afford it because we have school bills. So
yeah.
It's just like I don't have any money for equipment. But yeah, so I always recommend good books. Devin Allen's book just came out. Beautiful Ghetto, which is a fantastic photo book for like $20.
Yeah. And
it's going to be worth a lot of money. So because he's just going up and up, and his first book is going to be worth a lot of money.
Wow.
I would definitely going to recommend that. And there's some really good on I think it's photobook.com. Let me pull it up here. Hold on. If you're into collecting books, the great site, I get a newsletter, Photo Book Daily. So Photo Eye, there you go. They will send you Photo Eye, and they will send you daily updates on their signed book.
EYE?
EYE.com.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's like, Photo Eye. And that's a great place if you're looking into spending a little bit extra money on photo books. Because that's one of the things I do invest in. I invest in pretty rare, pretty decent monographs.
Cool. I bet you really want that, like, what, $10,000 Salgado book,
Sebastian
right?
Salgado from
not that. Well, see, I have his first book, which is close to that. No, it's not. It's not close to 10 grand. But no, but I do. And listen, and this is just a point. If any collectors out there, if you go on eBay, I also collect original magazines. Like I have the Ladies' Herm Journal that featured Robert Capa and Steinbeck's trip to Russia.
Oh wow.
I have the actual magazine, and I've got Gordon Parks' First Life magazine, where he did the Harlem gangs. And most people don't know what they have. So if you like I know, right? But if you like a photojournalist, look up the issue, look up the magazine they've appeared in, and then go onto eBay. You can get them really cheaply. I've quite a few magazines like that. I'm almost finished my Larry Burroughs life collection. Almost got all the Larry Burroughs life issues. Wow. So yeah.
Cool. Zach, you getting anything for anybody?
I finally broke down and did it's a
850
Micro Four. You got a Panasonic GH5?
Yeah.
Finally.
No, it's the 750 with the nice movable. So yeah, literally just got it in. And because they had a deal, Adorama had a deal with the grip and everything else, and it's the first new camera I have owned, I think, in like 12 years. Wow. New still camera, because I always buy my cameras off of CS, but sadly, he was actually selling his D750, which is what got me thinking about it. But I needed to put it on a credit card, and obviously he didn't take credit. So
should have done like some sort of PayPal. I don't know. I mean, there has to be.
And I'm good on that.
No, I mean this worked out because it was so it's like I don't know if the deal's still going on, and Nikon does the deal every once in a while, which if you're looking for an upgrade in the full frame market.
That's the one I got, Zach.
Yeah. They do this crazy deal where it's the battery grip and a new camera, not refurb, not anything, for like $1,400-1,500, and basically it is definitely the cheapest full frame camera, I would say, new you can get out there. Unfortunately, now I'm looking at selling my D600, one of my old D600s, and seeing you can buy them for like $600, which is depressing as hell. But on the other hand, how insane is that? Like, how insane is the market right now that you can buy a full frame, really excellent camera? I mean, the D600 is a great camera. If it wasn't just for the fact that I wanted to upgrade and I just literally wanted to have a movable LCD or back, which like that's almost the only thing I wanted. And like, it's nuts to me that you can buy for cheaper than any of the crop sensor cameras that are out there, basically. I mean, like, you can barely even get a D, would it be 7400? I forget what the model was before the D7500.
7,000, right?
Well, there's a 7100. I think there was a 72 or 73 or what.
Yeah.
Nikon jumps around a little bit.
Yeah.
But you can't even get one of the crop sensor ones like that for cheap. I mean, obviously the D500 is still $1,800, which is the only 4K or whatever, I guess, going on. But to me, it's completely the digital market right now. Like, if I didn't need the money so badly, I would probably just keep one of my D600s around as a, like, oh, this is an assignment. I might lose the camera sort of thing, just to keep around as something. Oh, that's an assignment where I can put it on a tripod somewhere, and if it gets bashed or whatever, it happens. I mean, it's kind of like how I have my GoPros and a couple other things that I have around, that I keep around. So I'm just like, if something happens, it happens.
750 is a great camera, man. Like,
it is a fantastic camera. It is a camera that
the sensor's great. It's fast.
Yeah.
Low light's great.
What about the 850? They want to hold out for
well, no, I would love to have the 850. It's another $1,700 though. That's the problem.
It's almost $4,000, but that's too much camera for what we do. I don't never think I couldn't justify buying the 850 when I had the 750 for about half of it. Right?
If I had the money, I could. That's one of those things where, like, that camera is, the specs on the D850 is so ridiculous, right, that you'd be almost nuts not to buy it. It's basically got all of the D5 specs and more in a camera that's half the size, and half the cost, for that matter. I'm just hoping that that the price will drop on that quick enough, because that's one that I'll buy used. The 4K, I love Nikon video. I love the way it looks. I like the way it looks better than any other DSLR or similar format video out there, and I'd love to have the 4K on it. But man, I mean, the other thing too is that this has Wi-Fi, which is the other big thing that I wanted,
and the pop flash.
I'm so tired of having everybody on the planet beat me on whether it be Instagram or whatever else, like uploading. I don't think I'll be able to upload to servers or anything like that through my wire, but the idea of being able to do that.
You should be able to. You should be able to send it wherever.
Nerphoto is its own. It has a web interface, not a FTP.
Okay. Do you have the Nikon app where you download to your phone?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's one thing that's still Nikon I wish would upgrade.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, guys: have you ever bought a camera for somebody as a gift, like an actual DSLR?
DSLR, no.
I mean, my wife never wanted one, and I've never loved somebody enough to buy them a DSLR.
I would. That's to me like buying somebody. I mean, obviously, price difference is huge, but that's like buying somebody a car without really consulting them. I mean, like obviously, if you're consulting them,
metaphor, or a good analogy.
Because it's so like, I know people don't like the grip on the D750. I think it's the best grip I've ever had on a camera since I had my hands on the D36 or D3S. I'm sorry. But I know people who love the Canon grip. I mean, ergonomics on a camera are, I think, by far almost more important than
what's the glass on that?
Anything else. Oh, that's the 20. That's a 24-120 f4.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Having worked in a camera store, Dave, I would never buy somebody an expensive camera. Yeah, I mean, I've consulted like with my stepmother, bought it for my dad. Like I've consulted her.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't a surprise, but I talked to him too. It isn't like Zach said, it's like buying a car. You have to like really feel what people want and what they're comfortable with. You know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's a huge expense, even when if you're going with like a cheap, basic consumer level DSLR, it's still a couple $100. Especially new, you're looking at $500-600. But I have done that in the past. I did that with my wife when I was dating her, when we were as a birthday gift. Primarily, obviously to endear myself to her, but also to see if I could get her into photography. And it's been an upward struggle our entire relationship. I've tried to get her to understand and take an interest in photography, and what I've learned is you can't change people, and if they don't have a desire to learn photography, they'll never learn it.
I thought you were that went in a different. I thought you were going to say, yeah, her name's Lindsay. She kept her maiden name of Dario. She's got 5 Pulitzers now, and
well,
that's me.
You know that's Sebastião Salgado's story, right?
Which one?
Sebastião Salgado.
Yeah,
he borrowed his wife's camera. His wife is a based on things I've seen, is a good photographer, but not a ridiculously famous photographer like Salgado is now. But he borrowed his wife's camera. Went on like a shoot and basically fell in love with the whole thing. And well, the rest of the story is there.
I know. I think he mentioned that on. Have you seen the Salt of the Earth documentary?
I haven't yet. No.
Yeah.
No.
It's on iTunes. It's
cool.
And Pictures from a Revolution is Susan Meisel's documentary. So there's that there. It's really good. But her Nicaragua stuff.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go to our last topic this evening. We're talking about Photoshop. Now, I can't really talk about my personal experience with this because, first of all, I don't believe it's out yet. But second of all, I no longer have access to Photoshop. I recently quit the entire Adobe Creative Suite line. So trying my hand at using GIMP as my primary photo editor. It's a bit frustrating, but I'm getting there. And actually, we need to have a whole discussion about like free photo editors because I'm exploring that world in detail now that I don't have Photoshop. And I'll be surprised. There is a lot of good, high quality, powerful stuff out there. It makes me think like, at least for like basic photo editing, you don't need what Photoshop has to offer. 99% of us can get away with what you can get out there for free. But we're bringing up Photoshop specifically because they have a neat feature, which if I were still having software, I would definitely want to have, is the subject select feature. So this is we're all familiar with like the different selection tools. If we've ever used Photoshop, magic wand, pen tool, different sort of selection, magnetic lasso and whatnot. If you've ever tried to select anything in Photoshop, you know that those tools are available. So what this function does is essentially it uses machine learning and it uses the internet and whatnot to be able to identify subjects in a shot. So the examples they show on various websites that have featured the story, or on Adobe's own website, is like you'll have a subject in the foreground or a group of subjects, and you just click the subject select thing, and it automatically puts a mask around the subject. Now, I'll be honest, it isn't perfect. It's not going to be, getting every single edge completely correct, but in terms of getting you probably about 80% of the way, 90% of the way to where you can go in and just do a little fine tuning, it is pretty awesome. And obviously we don't do all kinds of too much editing in terms of work with photojournalism and whatnot, but being able to selectively select a subject, I think it'd be pretty cool, at least when doing a little bit of like light toning. Like let's say you're trying to just do a little dodging or burning of your subjects as you want to bring them out a little bit, or they're a little bit over or underexposed. I think this could be an awesome tool for at least highlighting them. Or if, like, let's say you want to do a little bit of multimedia and you want to do that neat sort of effect, parallax effect, you're doing some sort of motion photo parallax thing for some video project you're doing, allows you to easily select the subject, bring them out a little bit, and then you can play around with the layers and whatever and stuff like that. So I think it's a pretty neat tool. What do you guys think about this sort of capability? You think this is something you would use if you had access to it?
Well, why did you leave Adobe? I'm just curious.
Why? I couldn't afford to spend $50 a month to use their suite. I wasn't getting enough out of it.
Because I've peaked at 6. Like I refuse to join the cloud, so sure. I'm not paying. I'm not paying for it
anymore.
No, I haven't. I have never illegally downloaded Adobe products ever.
Of course.
I don't engage in that sort of behavior. It's illegal
Well, there goes
and it's
Adobe as a
harmful.
sponsor.
Yeah.
We were so close.
Yeah. Sorry,
We're
guys.
one day away from getting them
in the show notes. Do not disparage these people.
Yeah, I know, right?
No, I mean, there's a reason I peaked at 6 because I don't trust the cloud enough yet to be paying monthly for my stuff. If my credit report people are getting hacked, you goddamn know like photo is next. So no, but I would never use. I don't, like you said, it's kind of like having cable TV. I don't use half of the stuff that's on Photoshop.
Right.
But that being said, it's almost like, you know, my brand loyalty is because I've got my action set up. I've got their burning and dodging tool down to really good, to where I can do that myself by going in and doing darkroom stuff, which is all I really do. I don't do anything else other than, you know, the healing tool for dust and crop and, you know, burning and dodging here and there and some sharpening. But it's just a tool that I wouldn't use. I will say I just got it for my phone and I love it. Photoshop has a free app for your phone. Well, I have it on my iPhone, and I love it. So I don't know.
So many great like Android and iPhone apps for photo editing.
I've never looked into anything other than that. You know, so I don't know. I don't know if there's anything out there. I mean, GIMP. I can't say it without giggling. I mean, it's because I'm like,
I have not tried to use GIMP to do like any sort of serious photo editing. You know, like selective dodging and burning and stuff like that. I've actually been playing around with a program called Photoscape, and also another program called Raw Therapy and Darktable. Those are all free programs that I've been, or free to try, or, you know, like for instance, Photoscape, you know, you can pay for it. It's like $30, or you can use it for free forever, and just not get access to everything. How's
the black and white conversion in those? Do you ever do any black and white?
Honestly, I'm not like a black and white snob, so I just hit desaturate and you know.
Well, good day to you, sir.
Like I mean, you know, we can talk about black and white, and you know, we had this actually topic on our show a few weeks ago where we talked about the efficacy of desaturating your imagery. You know, like, is that ethical? You know, in term, if the color image, is it ethical to make it black and white? And you know, there were some mixed, you know, thoughts about it. You know, I don't think it's necessarily unethical, but you know, some people do, or some people think it might be, depending on how you're using black and white to necessarily, like, if you're downplaying, you know, blood or whatnot. But I don't necessarily mess with I don't necessarily black and white my images too much.
Well, so I was asking because I don't know, you know, like that would be one of the main things. Like I would just do it in monochrome if I convert. I mean, that's what I was asking, because you were asking about other systems. I don't know, but that would be a game, you know, be a game changer if it was like, oh wow, you got to try this. You know,
I don't know. Again, you might want to try them out. They're all very, very robust. Like, I'm very surprised how robust these free programs are. And
but
again,
I worry about them not being there in 5 years, though, man. Like, I just worry about them closing up shop, or Adobe buying them, right? Like, you know, like Alien Skin was big, you know, with their film filters, and like that got absorbed, I think, like in the Nix software, that the Silver Pro. It's the, you know, I worry that, you know, with using Adobe on pretty much a daily basis, I'm afraid to change, because I'm afraid in 5 years that whatever file or whatever this other thing would be just wouldn't be there. They would either go bankrupt or they would get bought, you know, and it would just be, you're going to end up with Adobe anyway. I mean, if anyone is like leery of the cloud, or for whatever reason, I would say use an earlier version of Photoshop. If you're a photojournalist, it's okay. I mean, it does everything you want them to do, right? I mean, you know.
Well, again, I think, you know, a lot of these free software, it's open source stuff, you know, and it's being supported by a pretty healthy community. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, you know, I would never deride anyone to try the free stuff. You know, you can Adobe will always be there. It will always exist, because it will always have people who will pay, you know, to use it. Because they're professionals, because it is an industry standard. And honestly, if I were doing this work and I was getting paid, you know, if I was a photographer, or if I was doing production level photography or broadcasting, you know, video editing and whatnot, you know, it was a paid contractor, you know, type work, then I would absolutely probably go back to Adobe. But because there's no pay incentive, I'm using free stuff for photo and free stuff for video editing as well.
Mhm.
And I found that I can get away with, in terms of video editing, iMovie for 90% of what I need to do.
iMovie's good.
I'm doing simple B-roll pretty much shots with some music overlay. I don't need a, multi-tiered, multifaceted program. Now, if I was doing like multicam setups, then absolutely Adobe Premiere would be what I want. Or if I was doing super duper detailed toning and
what about
grading.
Lightroom? You guys use Lightroom?
I use Lightroom pretty much exclusively.
Zach is a Lightroom aficionado. I play around with Lightroom for a little bit. I thought it was a neat program, but again, it's not worth it for me to, pay the fee to use it. Zach, I mean, you were pretty happy with it. You use all the archiving capability and
yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I'm going to eventually move for more of my photojournalist stuff over to Photo Mechanic. Which I know everybody in the industry is like, really? You don't use that yet? But it's just like, that was always.
I don't use it either.
It's just for me,
what?
like everything I see from it, it's like, that's exactly precisely what I need. Because 80% of I would say not 80, but like 95% of my photo work is just simply exposure, contrast a little bit, things like that. Right. And so I would love have a program that doesn't take, because Lightroom, one thing that's annoying about Lightroom, not only does it take a little bit while to open up and import and kind of do other things, but also like I have to start. Yeah, if you want to be organized, you have to start a new thing. It's just, it's like too much for me because what I do is usually edit in the field, and then come home, and then I have portable hard drives that everything in the field is on, and then when I come home is I dump everything into Lightroom galleries that I have at my home computer, which is why it, for right now, Lightroom makes more sense, but hopefully once I start shooting a lot more again on a regular basis, then moving back over to, or not moving back, but moving to Photo Mechanic would make a lot more sense.
Photo Mechanic
is $150 one-time fee forever. And right now I think there's a 20% discount on it or something like that. You can always almost find a coupon code for it. I would highly recommend, if you're in the world of photojournalism, it seems like that's almost what every single person I know uses. Some people I actually convinced a bunch of people to start using Lightroom just because they didn't want to pay the $150 all at once or whatever. And they're like, well, I already have Lightroom with the suite, or Lightroom's only $10 a month through the cloud, so who cares? The other thing too is also with the cloud nowadays. I don't know if you have the problem with the 750 is getting the codecs for it's codec still, right? That's what you use for the new like raw data or video data and stuff like that. But yeah, I would check out Photo Mechanic. It's like I said, having not really used it that much.
Yeah,
I can't speak to it, but everybody else I know that loves it. So
I'll have to check. Yeah, my Photoshop 6. I've got the codes for the 750 raw files. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'll have to check out Photo Mechanic. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised. Whenever I hear working photojournalists don't have Photo Mechanic, because it's like, if I were doing that job day in, day out, I would have that thing right there ready to go in my laptop, because it's like the fastest way to process and caption and put all your metadata and your imagery. And they also have a lot of built-in capabilities if you want to FTP your stuff directly to like a newsroom or photo warehouse or whatnot. So I'm always surprised, but it's always interesting to see what people use.
See, for me, one of the things is that I would say way more than half of the websites or different publications I work for don't even know how to process imagery like live. So to an FTP or anything like that. So, whether it be the Village Voice or whether it be, I hope that by now they've changed. I haven't worked for them in that in like a live, a breaking news capacity in a while. But the progressive lefty websites I work for, some of them I have to teach Dropbox. So, so it's, that's one of the big reasons why I've never had the huge turnaround. Also, one of the reasons why I didn't even force myself to purchase a camera that has like Wi-Fi capabilities and things like that, because
No,
for the most
I'm thankful for that 750 Wi-Fi is great. I mean, it goes right up to Instagram from my phone. You
yeah.
can put it right up, like, and I think that's going to be kind of the way of the future. But yeah, I'm going to look into photo mechanic. I mean, I just, to be quite honest, I've been a photo editor at the paper for 4 years, so I really haven't had to do this stuff. Like I haven't, because everything. I mean, well, they had Merlin, they had their own setup within the Tribune company.
Yeah.
So I never had to worry about like I just switched my website over to Visura out of Europe. So like they're hosting my website, which is a photojournalism base for anyone who doesn't know. Visura is strictly for photojournalists. It's like $20 a month, but you get 3 websites. I use them for 2 websites right now. But they give you updates on if an editor looks at your stuff, they'll send you an update like,
oh, nice.
Zach from Rolling Stone is looking at your thing. So totally worth checking out. But I didn't need that before. So Photo Mechanic, you probably got a new sale out of it.
Well,
there you go, Zach.
I've been trying to get a free copy or review copy, but they're one of those places that they just don't have any need to ever give out any review copies because also there's a free trial there. So I mean,
yeah, I saw that. I mean, I might just dive in.
It's only like $100 or something.
Yeah, you said it's for good, right?
On a program, it's not that price.
I always worry about the reason I keep my monthlies down is because, I mean, as you know now, it's going to be like feast or famine. So during famine, I don't want to go in the negative for photo or whatever.
No, I know. I'm lucky. I'm still under a discounted plan for the Adobe Suite. Once it goes up to the full thing, I'm going to have to some real.
But why? I mean, why not just go with 6? And I mean, what's the big difference between 6 and the cloud?
I mean, the cloud.
I refuse to pay Adobe for monthly. I'm not going to do it.
Well, for the cloud, for me, is that I do video editing. I do graphic design from time to time. The problem is that 80 most of the stuff I don't use nearly enough to justify having it. If I had to pay a lot more, I would probably have to get rid of it. But like Dave, you had the same issue. We had this conversation before, where the combo just doesn't exist. Like I need to be able to open up certain files and slightly make edits to things like After Effects and that sort of thing. I am probably, hopefully, hope to God, never have to touch After Effects as a professional, other than to like, oh, I can change the text in this file and then export it and not screw with anything.
So you use Premiere?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I use Premiere. I use Photoshop. I use Lightroom, and like anything else I kind of use to open files, maybe make some edits or make some changes. I know how to use, I forgot, what's the layout software called?
InDesign.
InDesign.
Yeah.
I theoretically know how to use InDesign.
InDesign is pretty cool once you get to know how to use it, though. For design,
my problem is that I'm still in the world of Quark. If you remember that, anybody in this industry long enough should remember Quark. Yes, I grew up on Quark. And I was a damn.
So Zach, you want to see my zip drive?
Exactly. I was a wizard on Quark. I could put together a whole school newspaper in like 3 hours.
What was the other like drive? It had like a gig discs or something. You remember this?
Oh, there's zip drives, and then there's like a higher version of zip drives, I think. Yeah. So it didn't start with a Q or something, or maybe it was just the same company. I remember that, having to buy those as a art photography student. You have to buy like it was 75 megs worth of data. You have to buy one, and oh my God.
I'm actually, though, back on topic, though, Dave, I'm worried about net neutrality. If that goes away, what a lot of these online places are going to do. I mean, if we end up having to bundle like they do in Portugal, is it going to be, you're going to have to pay Adobe on top of paying a bundle fee or something, you know what I mean? Like something along those lines. So,
I mean, being able to upload large files and that sort of thing, I mean, that's already an issue in a lot of parts of the country. When I lived in Alaska, I was paying $125 a month for internet because I would have to send a 5 gig video file somewhere, or whatever, from an hour talk, or maybe not 5 gigs, but like half a gig or something like that. And otherwise it would have just blown out my entire monthly usage.
I mean, I live in the city. We don't have FiOS, so I'm on the regular Verizon line for like, I got to go to Starbucks to send photos over to the UK, so I can like.
Oh wow, you're on DSL?
Yeah, because we don't have we're in the city. There's no FiOS in the city. There's no Xfinity either.
Oh my God.
So I'm on the high speed internet. So
high speed internet.
So I try to keep my I know, right? High speed. I mean,
net neutrality is a scary thing that's going on right now, and it'll probably be something that we do talk about in a future show, especially after December 14th when the vote is supposed to happen, and we're supposed to lose it. So I think after that happens, we'll probably talk about how it's going to affect the career field. Because I mean, we are a internet dependent career field nowadays in this day and age. And if we're having issues because we can't upload content, fast enough, that's going to affect the flow of news, especially now if the people can't get the content we're uploading, I mean, that's, oh man, it's a real bad
I think it's going to go away. I don't see any, after I had hope until this tax bill passed, but now that they all jumped on it, I really don't think, I think the FCC is gonna get rid of it. I think it's all gonna be big business. So I'm gonna get a drum scanner and a telephone line and be able to send my drum scans across the wire.
Bill, come back. Yes.
All right.
All those people over the age of 35 will be able to jump back into the industry.
That's right. Fine.
You don't know how to. You don't have a Nikon F5. You don't know what 35 millimeter film. Screw you.
This might be the resurrection of the newspaper industry.
All these old guys coming back in.
Funny you should, we've in the media circles here in Baltimore, they've actually brought that up. Is I mean, losing net neutrality is a horrible thing, but there's a few silver linings, and one of them is, I mean, people are going to get their news from wherever. Kat and I were just watching this Sherlock Holmes movie with Jack the Ripper, and from the 70s, and they had these really short news briefs, and these people flooded the opera house handing out news briefs, and I was like, it's Twitter. It's like Victorian Twitter. They're handing out these little news briefs. Yeah,
be handing out little thumb drives out in the street, and be like, get your newspaper here, get your newspaper here. Breaking news.
Yeah, I mean,
this has been Old White Guys Talk About the Way It Used to Be. Thank you for joining us. Another wonderful episode. But no, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, and definitely we'll be talking about on Around the Lens. And who knows, we might be talking about on 10 FPS. That ends our show for this week. Joe, why don't you tell people where they can find out more about you and your podcast?
So my podcast is that's 10fps.net, 10 frames per second. Downloadable now, not on iTunes. Not on iTunes just yet.
We'll get it figured out.
Yeah, and my work is jmgiordanophotography.com, and my Instagram is jmg photo. I think that's it. Hold on. I get all my social medias mixed up. Yeah, I think it's jmg photo. So
nice
on Instagram.
All right.
And my Instagram is kind of professional, so you won't see cats and sombreros and things like that.
Won't see your cat on there?
Yes, no, not my cat. She's been here. Where'd she go?
She was crawling in that stack of documents you have, or that.
Oh no, those are my wife's.
Cool.
Those are dress fabric patterns.
Ooh, nice.
So,
well, I saw the cat crawling all around in it, so you might want to check for cat hair.
We're hipsters here. I make my own pickles, and she sews her own dresses. It's like new.
Nice.
Yeah.
Zach makes his own Polaroid film, right, Zach?
Yeah,
nice.
I wish.
No.
By the way, if I could, while we're talking about this, if you go on Gabriella Demzik, who is a Washington Post or a Washington photojournalist, she's on her Instagram. Just look her up. It's Gabriella Demzik. She's doing some great stuff with dye transfers and ink and things in alternate like press photography right now, which is she's doing it for a client, and she's documenting it on her Instagram.
That's cool.
And it's really good.
Nice.
So I didn't mean to. Yeah. Speaking of alternative processing,
yeah,
I mean, it's just good stuff.
Nice. All right, Zach. Anything you want to throw out before we shut out?
I got nothing going on other than as always, check out visu.news, and also there's a new version of my documentary coming out, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. You can get it at gregpalast.com.
All right. And you can find anything about me or Zach or Ron on aroundthelens.com. So go ahead and check that out. Well, I want to thank our guest, Joe M. or JM Giordano, however you like to say that. for being for.
I'll tell you why
guest
the
on our
initials
show.
after we're off the air. It's funny.
What's that?
I'll tell you why I use my initials when we get off the air. It's pretty fun.
Oh, definitely. Nice. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being a guest on our show. Truly appreciate it. And for Zach Roberts, I am David J. Murphy. This has been episode 102 of Around the Lens, and we are out.